They had one of the security guards today, something for the gentleman. That was getting a little bit rowdy in the hospital. And they said, you know, it's probably best if you move along, go get some air, walk around. I'm gonna call the chief on you. I said, oh, you'll be impressed.
Good.
All right.
We are live on YouTube and we are live here.
Great. Okay. We are ready to start. It is 6 p.m. It's Wednesday, September 10th. This is the meeting of the Opioid Settlement Funds Advisory Committee. And we have a fairly short agenda tonight, but we wanted to meet to get the packets passed out. And these are the results of the letters of intent that we had asked for by the 5th of September. So each member does have a packet in front of them. The extra packets, we'll pick those up and get them on to, they're also in their emails, but we'll pick up the packets and make sure we have it. Okay, so a couple of things. Do you want to deal with the dates at the end?
Yeah, please.
Thank you. Those will be coming up. One of the things that we did discuss, and we'll take this a little bit out of order. Sure, we do have the packets. You've had it in your email. Every member of the committee should read these, make your notes on them, look them over. But we did think it might be a good idea to have a subcommittee that would meet between now and our next full meeting to make recommendations to the full committee about these. And what would you like to start with? Do you think which are the ones that really rose to the top in their presentations and those kinds of things? So unofficially, I think we had mentioned it to, I know Shelley, we had asked her, and the reason we chose the three that are about to come out of my mouth are the risk of having a conflict of interest. So the rest of you that are not on this subcommittee, you do have businesses that would likely be sending in letters of intent or whatever. And we wanted to avoid as much conflict as possible.
Now, the letters of intent aren't the applications.
Right.
Right.
No, there's another.
And it was stated that just because you didn't send a letter of intent doesn't mean you can't apply.
Oh, no, they still can apply.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
And there'll be I think we did this for our purposes to get a real sense of what are the needs that are going to come back from the people that are out there with boots on the ground working this all the time, so that we really have a good handle on what they would like to see. So, no, that does not mean they cannot still apply. We'll have that process, and that will come out of the subcommittee as well. So Shelley, I mentioned it to her, and she did, she was interested in being part of that. And I talked with Allison, who was going to depend, I guess, on these dates that we're going to have. And then the chief, we mentioned it to him, and he just didn't really say anything, and we kind of left it until we found out for sure. But you're not really in a position that you would be put in a conflict position, I don't believe, very often, not in what you do for the city. So if you don't mind, there's two confirmed. Allison has to check her dates again. And maybe you'll know by the date discussion if you can do it or not do it. The first assignment would be is to try to get together with the three people and bring it back with your first impressions at our next meeting to the full committee. Did anybody have a chance to read over these? Do you have any overview comments already that you'd like to make?
Sure, I noticed there's like a pattern. You basically break them all down into like three categories. There was some smaller asks for specific things. There was some annual funding requests and then some gigantic asks for big projects. I know we had previously discussed trying to figure out how we're gonna divide that up, so I did notice that pattern.
Mhm. Okay. Anybody else? You want to share?
I think it really highlighted the sort of the ongoing funding needs too that are the recovery communities are facing in light of a lot of federal funds not being continually available moving forward. We'll highlight some things that, with certain federal funding, especially with SAMHSA, the way that they are approaching some of their funding, will potentially, regardless of whether or not an agency uses their money, if they even engage in certain activities, they could potentially not be funded at a federal level, period. So a lot of agencies are making, like syringe exchange programs are one of the ones that put all agencies at jeopardy. So if the city were to engage, if we were to engage, some of it could potentially make us not eligible for any federal funding. That hasn't been pinpointed yet, but there is worry about that. So I think that highlights again that how important these funds are to go out, and that but people still have to think about whether or not they engage in certain recovery activities that may not align with the executive order.
Yeah, I think what we're starting to see a little bit in homeless services is that it's not necessarily the organization itself participating in activities, it's language like states may not, or cities or municipalities may not, so it's sort of, and everybody has to pivot at the same time, which I think is really nerve-wracking.
I think there are some great innovative ideas that I think maybe not. This committee is not going to solve and completely take care of some of those issues, but I think there are some really great ideas maybe for the community to consider long term.
Did you see potential for collaboration with the county? These first rounds?
So YMCA is one, right? That would not serve just Bangor, but the greater area, even though it's a gigantic.
Medical school or like that idea of like the concept of that thinking, I think that's thinking down the road.
I think there were a couple of Bangor and I guess organizations who do serve the entire, the county's part of their whole catchment area, so I think there's probably, depending on what those individuals were looking for, there were smaller asks, I believe also.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what Welcome to Housing asked, I just scanned it in, did they ask for a number?
I don't think there
We just
wasn't
kind of
there,
did,
yeah.
Thinking about, what the county did around their tier system, I feel like it probably.
Oops, sorry. I wasn't supposed to answer that.
I think it probably makes sense for us to consider some sort of tier. I'm just, long term, I'm just afraid that, small pockets of money may have immediate impact for smaller agencies, but it's a hard place. I don't know how to weigh that out, that, a small ask, if it really does help that agency with a big impact, I think that's great, but I think there are some of these bigger asks that we're not gonna be able to even touch, they would have a huge impact, but I don't know that, even with the incoming funds over, like, I think there was somebody that requested a 5-year sort of contract.
Was from Street. Yeah.
But thinking about how that plays out as the money rolls in, if you make a large award, that would be the amount of money that comes in per year, right? And so thinking about it could be that's where we want to go, right? But I'm not saying that you should or shouldn't, just that something to consider about if we have long-term impacts. Plus, I know that there's also something we're probably gonna talk about tonight, or maybe not, I don't know. It's the other additional funds that the city council has approved to
Oh, yeah.
the other potential
Yeah.
opioid settlement funds that could come to the table. We don't know what those amounts would be, but again, I think an ongoing process where, after the first round of funding, there would probably be another committee or addition to this committee would continue and we would go through the same process of dispersing the next allotment.
Yeah,
And it could be bigger or it could, what happens.
I suspect it will be smaller. And I think the one challenge will be as we're going through this process is we probably won't know even the when of when we might expect to see it. So it will be really difficult to incorporate consideration of those, which doesn't mean we shouldn't, but we won't, I don't think we'll have a lot of certainty around those additional funds.
It sounded like one of those orders was just giving the solicitor and the city manager to pursue that's for us.
Yeah.
And the other was just an outline very similar to what we used for this one. But there again, the amounts when dollar amounts will change, it will depend on how many people are in it, the pot is being divided by, and it takes time. But they seem motivated to want to pursue it and settle it, so.
And I think most funding agencies that put out RFPs do a 2-year, 3-year funding stream because they know that their funding availability will change and be able to adapt to that. So I would recommend us thinking in those kind of chunks
Yeah.
so that we can be adapting to the needs and also adapting to that stream of cash.
Other thoughts? It's gonna be hard. That's the hardest part of this whole committee is figuring out the funding of what's gonna go where and how often. So the subcommittee is gonna be tasked with really looking at and making recommendations on projects that we can help with, and hopefully we can do some smaller and a middle, maybe. The large, I don't know. I mean, that was a huge ask. But is that something that maybe the large ask we could collaborate with the county on a one-time thing or something, I don't know.
Talking about the YMCA one. And some creative outside of the box thinking on that. If they need $500,000 to complete the funding to complete the project, then they would be moving into a new building, right? The whole thing is a new building. So then what happens with the building that they're in?
No, I believe it's being sold.
Yeah,
Sold.
What if we loan them money so they can finish their project and then they pay it back when they sell the building?
I think I do well.
Fair to assume that they've
Yeah.
already considered.
Oh, and what they said, oh, but yeah.
And that was all addressed on the city council meeting, right? The city council, because it's a city building, is that correct?
I'm sorry, I was,
So why? I don't think why it's the city.
no, it is,
Oh,
no,
they own that building.
Just a thought.
No, I was just trying to get the details.
And I don't think we can run money.
we wouldn't be able to do it under the committee.
But what about, now, did we talk about a tier? Are we against doing the tier thing like the county does?
Oh, we haven't talked
We haven't
about
said
that.
that yet.
We started briefly at one meeting.
I think that would be pretty important to talk about at this juncture,
Yeah.
the tier, if we're gonna do a tier.
One thing interesting about these proposals that I'll just read is many of them relate to housing.
Mhm.
And it would be difficult to do new housing with small investments, I think, unless some of these projects, when they actually come with their applications, so big unknown. Whether they are already bringing other funding to the table and just looking for supplemental funding from the committee.
I had given it, one of our
That would be-
first meetings was, when we were gonna come in with ideas.
Mhm.
And the HIV thing kind of took over was the recovery home scholarships, which go to anything, but I didn't submit it to to, as far as this goes, because I thought we all had it, but maybe you've all forgotten about it. But that would allow a small chunk of change to make a huge impact,
How much do we have to rate now again?
$500,000.
We've been about $500,000. And then how much comes in a year, 150?
It's, I'll actually just gonna pull the actual.
Yeah, I think you have it in your emails.
Yeah, so, in 2025, we'll get 200,000. Estimated
That shrinks.
to get 200,000. It doesn't shrink that much for over the course of maybe 5 or 6 years. It's right in the $200,000 range.
Okay.
And then in the outer years, it goes down to like 140.
Yes, I mean, if we've only got $500,000 to work with right now. Seeing those as 3 different tiers, especially the one where the people are asking for basically the majority of the annual money. We'd either be able to pick like, do the small things and some of the annual and one of the big ones, but not all 3. I don't see how we do that.
I think the county did it in like a 50,000, wasn't it, and a 25 and 10 and under.
Yes.
And, with $500,000, that seems like a reasonable, to me, a reasonable thing.
And it would be a one, so, but we couldn't do 500,000, so like, let's say we put them out in tiers. And we used up that $500,000, we couldn't do a multi-year contract, it would be a one-time thing, and then we'd have to see.
Yeah.
And put out the 100,000 or the 200,000 again the next year under,
Mhm.
you know.
As far as the housing. That there might be funds elsewhere that that particular project could be directed to. We wouldn't be able to dip into that, but maybe there is something out there for a developer that was going to do some housing. But you're right, 500,000 doesn't do a whole lot for
You could find it, but you could
development.
do a scholarship for somebody that's in Bangor that, wherever they wanted to go, like they want to go to Fresh Start, but where, a scholarship to the Oxford House or to some of the houses in southern Maine, some of the recovery residents that are, I'd recommend they be more certified, so that we're not.
And what would you be thinking for being there?
All of
Correct
that.
me.
No, even a 10,000 to 50,000 anywhere in there would help a whole bunch of people.
And who would administer it? Like, we already have a GA system, could it be tacked on to the
Could
current?
be, I put that in here,
Yeah.
originally that because GA is certainly familiar with recovery housing, they have a whole separate thing for it.
Yeah.
So they could add it in their pot and either administer it that way, or you could find somebody else to administer it.
So right now, are we reviewing the applications we received, or are we just?
These aren't
like,
applications.
The letters are we reviewing the letters? Or are we talking about other projects? Because I thought tonight's focus was just on reviewing what had come in before the deadline.
This was off the topics.
Okay.
Conversation.
But
out
the
of
Fresh Start one didn't come through, and there was not another provider that.
That was,
Yeah, that was when we first met,
Right, I remember that.
yeah,
But it's not.
it's
part
not
of
in
this.
there.
Okay, that was my.
But there's a lot of others that are related to
Right.
housing.
Yeah, I would think, correct me if I'm wrong. The idea of getting this information was to create the format for what we're gonna ask for the request for proposals. We're not actually like individually going over these per se,
Right.
but trying to figure out how we're gonna allocate the money that people can ask for.
Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
But it does seem like a tier thing, like there was, like you said, Scott, there was some really clear kind of categories and some clear, like there's the smaller asks, and then, and I also think there are some like categories of subject matter, right? Like there's like the housing, there was some that was really about, supplies and things that people who are in recovery might need. Then there's some, and so like thinking, do you do tiers by subject? Do you do 2 tiers? But like you could say, well, we're gonna put out 1 housing at this level, and then 3 sort of needs based, at this level. I don't know, there's just, it's It's a hard kind of combination.
You have a thought?
So what is it that you want the subcommittee to do? We have 12 applicants here, not 12 applicants, 12 letters of interest. You want us to look at these and put these in an order that we can discuss with the full committee?
Yeah.
And that the full committee will decide the tier level? Because we don't know what the ask is in some instances, right?
Right.
Right, you know.
So we'll review these, the three of us will review these, put them in an order that we believe is sensible to bring back to the committee for further discussion. Is
Right.
that essentially the charge of the subcommittee?
Yeah, I mean, I would think of it as, you know, broad conclusions that can be used to sort of inform the application process, not like specific to, not specific critiques and thoughts on each. Yeah.
Because that meeting that they're gonna have with the subcommittee would be with the ones that they ask in, correct?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. Is it specific invitation or is it just an invitation to the
For the
applicant?
process, so that they can come in.
Yeah.
Ask questions, learn more about the
I
process.
thought it had to be open.
Yeah.
I think that, at that, I think we had
Mhm.
talked about it being a night where different providers could come in.
Right, they could come
And
in.
they're not necessarily selling their proposal to us, they're informing the committee and asking questions about the process. Cause the input mechanism for learning about the issues was the letter of intent.
Mhm.
Do you want me to forward what I already did like months ago? I mean, a month ago or something to everybody? Or as far as the housing thing goes, because I didn't do a letter of intent because I did that.
But we're still gonna request for proposals, right?
Right, right, which is after, but I didn't know if you wanted this again.
Sure,
Okay.
if you want to send it out, because I'm sure this one.
Are we allowed to receive something after the deadline though, as a letter of intent?
I would say.
That's not really. a letter.
We would-
Okay, I'm just making sure
Yeah.
that we've got
Yeah.
called to the.
No, that's
Yeah,
not-
so I don't want us in.
I don't think we could,
If it was already
We've already
submitted as a
yeah.
document, it's already submitted
Right.
Yeah.
as document to the committee, then it's there already.
Yeah.
It's just
I'll just send it again, so you.
It's
have
just
it
for
in your
information.
email already from a month ago,
the prior submission. It's not
but it will give you an idea on how,
this first homework assignment,
yeah, was the first one.
will be brought up back.
Okay.
Did that answer your question? No?
I'm not sure.
I think
So
that
everybody here should be able to present to the subcommittee, is that what, is my understanding? Everybody that sent a letter of intent in, or are they presenting to the full committee?
It would be the subcommittee that they would,
So we'll connect with everybody that submitted a letter of intent and have them come in and further present to the subcommittee.
I'm so confused.
Yeah.
Me too, I am as well, I really don't understand what the charge of the subcommittee is.
the charge of the subcommittee was to find in a broad scope,
Yeah.
like housing is important, like supplies are important, like what the general gist was, right?
the annual ask.
But whether, but nothing amounting to dollars, you know, in other words,
Not now.
you look, right, you look at all of these and you say, oh, well, housing appears in all of them, or supplies appear in all of them, or whatever
Mhm.
appears in all of them, so that might be, or most of them, so that might be the number one thing, and then number two might be something else, and number three. I don't know how far down the scale, down the road you wanna go, but.
Well, you know you've got an ask that's way out here,
Right.
and then those
And that is-
those along. That are lower.
And the
There's
ask,
another theme too, was that some of the providers specifically said we just need money for operating costs moving forward. These are people who have been and continue to regularly service the area. So that, you know, that stuff is probably a category.
I think the subcommittee, again, the reason it was there was to avoid any conflict of interest, like
or,
for people that are on the committee that might, their
Yeah.
agencies might be submitting.
yeah.
I almost think that we don't necessarily need the subcommittee unless we're scoring or reviewing the actual RFP.
Like for the
Um,
Well, I guess the question is, because I think, because we had talked about using these to create the application or tweak the template that we have from the Moxie Center. Is there a risk of conflict in having the full committee participate in the use of this information to tweak the application?
Yes.
Yeah.
there is.
Oh,
I think it's the application that,
If we did it based on content of application, but if we just did, tiers of money, that's still conflict, doesn't feel like it. Cause then we're just going off the information that we have.
No, but I better understand what you want. I understand. You get it.
Yeah, that was
Yeah, no, that
helpful.
makes sense. I got it. We're good. As long as Allison knows what we're doing, we're good.
I said.
I've heard is that
We can play the
really
game
what we
night.
wanna do is be able to review these. So what I just heard you say, and I'm curious to see if you heard this too, is that we're not inviting people back to talk more about these. We're looking at these to inform the final version of the application that then goes out.
Right.
And there will be a need for a subcommittee later on, likely, that's made up of members who do not have an application with their organization.
Okay, yeah, that makes good sense.
We're just gonna hang up for now.
And there will be time for public, not public, but agency comment to learn, right? So there'll be a public session on the 17th.
That was the idea of the work session, yeah,
Is that post or pre the RFP going out?
that's pre.
Pretty.
And I think there's a likelihood that people who've submitted a letter come, but I think there's also a likelihood that people who did not
Sure.
come
Yeah,
and
sure.
say,
Yeah.
These are the things that I care about here.
Okay,
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
so that's good. Shelley, you will bring Shelley to. Yeah, we're gonna get Shelley's packet to her. Oh, she has it in her email though, so she'll be okay with that.
I appreciate Dave's work on that, so thank David Warren for
He's
that.
very good about putting packets together. He always asks, "Did you need anything?" Okay, so they know where they're going with that.
Do we wanna talk about the date of the listening session
Yeah,
while we're here?
well, we got to, because Alan
Yes.
needs to know what we're gonna do, so.
So in the solicitation for the letters of interest, we listed the date of the listening session as the 17th
Oh,
of September. So
that's
next
Wednesday.
Wednesday. And then we realized that Counselor Hawes is gonna be away. So we were talking about the 16th. However, if just the subcommittee is at the listening session, I think we would defer to the subcommittee on the date.
But the 17th isn't one you can do.
The 16th. You said.
A week ago, I could do the 16th.
So that's why we're back to maybe the 7th.
Which I also.
You can't do that one either. Okay.
So could we use the next regularly scheduled meeting as just a subcommittee meeting?
And that ended up being
Good.
the 24th.
Okay, so the 24th is when you want to have your listening session at 6 p.m., right? Is that right, Carolyn?
I think we're determining that.
Yes,
Okay.
it's not as simple as us just picking a date because we also have to look at available space.
If you're going on that rotation, 24th, that would work for the last.
That's what I got.
Okay, so you started from. And you went every other week.
See, I got confused with the date thing because we did 2 in a row
Yeah.
in order to not be in conflict with the
Right.
school committee.
Exactly.
So that's
what
why it
happened.
put us here tonight.
Yeah.
And then in 2 weeks, which is the 24th, and
Right,
yeah,
Yeah.
that was my
but then
understanding.
it came back out as October 1st was the next, so then we're back in that.
Well, I think that was,
But that's interrupting the school committee.
that came from several emails back and forth with different dates flying around, and I think it wasn't necessarily the week one.
All right. So here we are on the 10th.
And are you all okay meeting in this room?
Mhm.
Not the chambers? That will make it a little bit easier to get this, to secure this room.
So we can do the listening session on the 24th, but only in this room. And my concern is that if we have a robust public attendance, that will not be conducive to everyone listening and participating.
Well, then we can make it a work session of the committee with the subcommittee on the 24th, if that.
Would that be at 6 p.m. also?
Well, I think we said 6 in the beginning because people were working until 5 or whatever, so it does make it a little easier.
And then the next regular schedule will be
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
The 8th.
Does that sound like
Could that be the
what
vote?
we want? All right, so the 24th.
And then we get, I mean, you all are gonna be so unimpressed because then we're gonna get into a situation in October where we have a Monday holiday where there's a council meeting
It moves to the Wednesday.
that moves to Wednesday.
Have we heard from the League of Women Voters on their candidates night? Well, you're going to, and they're gonna wanna host it at the chambers.
So we can certainly do our next meeting here, the 24th, but that does not help us for the listening session. I don't think we wanna wait too long for the listening session. What about Thursday, the 18th? Instead of
Oh, no, this is
just,
for the
this is
three.
just the subcommittee.
Yep.
Mondays. Mondays and Fridays are the days that you can do.
Yeah, I could,
Well, if it's just a subcommittee, why can't they meet in here on the night that we have committees?
Because this is specifically for the listening session.
Oh,
okay, so I can. Yeah, I can do Thursday the 18th. Figures. What time would it be at? 6?
It would be 6.
so the chamber's open that night?
On the 18th, the chambers, is it helpful to you if it's earlier? It's not, okay,
It doesn't,
okay,
doesn't really change it, but yeah, it's fine.
because I think we can typically do.
And
The
that's-
reason we do it at evenings is because of us, if we wanted to do it earlier.
And that's the listening session.
And the listening session consists of the people that did the letters of intent or anybody.
Anybody could,
Okay, so that is our public,
that will come out.
that's it, right? That would be it for the public.
I think the committee can set another listening session whenever we want, right?
Yeah, I mean, certainly
But for this,
freedom to do
but for
that.
this RFP process, that's what we have.
So that's gonna be the subcommittee.
Because the listening, yeah.
We don't have to listen to.
Somebody else does that too.
And the 24th, we are ready.
24th.
And then we have over 8,
If everyone not coming to the session, can we send Uber Eats?
Eight. So then we'll go to the 8th. And then the 22nd. Is that consistent?
As long as it's not the first, so the eighth.
Yeah.
Which avoids the issue with the week that council will be on Wednesday, right?
Yeah.
Or at least good for us.
Well, that gets you through the list of stuff. We have the regular meeting to discuss with them what they found out in the listening session. And then we have those next 2 meetings that we can start thinking about the application process.
Because regardless, it would be good to get this application, the RFP out before the end of this year and at least
Oh, for sure.
the awards identified for maybe a January 1st start date.
So once they have their information, we'll bring it back and we need to start. You're right, we gotta get that.
So we just decided that the listening session is the 18th
On Thursday.
and on that same day, that's when we're deciding if there's changes to be made. Recommendations for the application itself.
That's an interesting question. So I think what you're getting at is. If our next full meeting is the 24th, will the subcommittee have time to talk and collaborate and come up with some conclusions following? So maybe the 24th should just be a meeting of the subcommittee.
Yeah, we can have a regular meeting, or they can have their subcommittee meeting, and then on the 8th, we'll have a regular meeting.
And receive the recommendations.
And get the recommendations from you all. Is that a better time frame?
I suppose.
You're scowling.
Well, package dinner, it's nothing to do with what that means, right? It's like, I'm just trying to puzzle through it.
Yeah.
Okay, so that would. So there would be 2 meetings of the subcommittee in a row, and then on the 8th is when we would come back and have the full group.
Right.
And talk about it.
And then that does give you time in between. Which is better, because we really don't want. You to spend your time going through there, looking at all this, and then not feeling that you've got time to get the recommendations together. And this isn't a formal presentation that you're bringing back either. I mean, it's good documented things that you see that could be projects or whatever. It doesn't have to be PowerPoint and all that.
Yeah, and I think during that if it's a subcommittee on the 24th, subcommittee can just sort of stream of conscious their thoughts, and then I can take that away. Put it into some sort of structure. For you folks to look at and then talk about it with the whole committee next. So yeah, don't feel compelled.
Yeah,
It's not to.
I'm just gonna go home and pick my PowerPoint thing and have it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome.
AI, not for you now, we can have AI just. I'm just teasing.
so is everyone good with that for a plan for the dates? Got the packets. We still all can be reading these and making notes and passing it on to the subcommittee if time comes for discussion. It's not gonna be set in stone when you come back that first meeting, so we've got time to. We wanna be thoughtful. We want our money to be spent in the best way possible. To help the most people would be the ultimate goal, but. Any other comments? Any burning issues other than you're hungry, you're tired, you're tired.
How are we connecting with those that are gonna present at the listening session?
I'll have because we messaged it as the 17th, I think we're gonna have to reach out directly to all the people. And then we'll do some public noticing as well.
Right.
To let them know. Do we wanna talk about a structure for that public input session? Because maybe we wanna set some parameters proactively around, like how long it will be, how
Yes,
we'll limit time.
you definitely need time limits, you definitely need guidelines for what's gonna be acceptable for discussion. Because everybody has a project in mind, probably.
Is there some sort of template that's already in use for stuff?
So we have the city council sort of rules of operation, which are probably a good starting point. I mean, there's a whole set of how we behave and what behavior is acceptable, which I think would be applicable to the situation generally, and I can send those to the group. So you don't.
You can have the group and you should read them at the beginning of the session. So everybody's on the same page, they know what the time limits are, they know what's acceptable, what isn't.
But then, so typically during a normal public input session or comment session, it's 15 minutes at the beginning, no more than 3. Obviously, we're gonna go for longer than 15 minutes total. But do we think 3 minutes is the right amount of time?
I would
Longer?
say 5. I think 5.
Realistic.
Just because it's a,
You
This is kind of specialized.
Keep it on.
you wanna know.
I did.
That's about a page.
Set it down. Down.
Now, 300 words, I can't quite.
And then no more than 90 minutes.
6 o'clock at night, you're gonna be starting, you're gonna read the rules, ground rules and all of that. I would base that, keep it in the back of your head. 60 minutes, if you only have 6 people
Right.
that show up,
Yeah.
then you run them through and when you're done, you're done. If you walk into a room full of people, I don't know that you really wanna. I guess if it were me, if I were running it, I would probably start them out and just don't say anything. But then kind of watch how it's going and how many people are actually getting to speak. And then you may have to say partway through, okay, we've been an hour. And then say, we'd like to, close comments at whatever. Because they'll go on forever. I shouldn't say that. Some will, some won't. I mean, some of your smaller projects, it's not gonna take them long to really tell you what it is they're looking for and how they'd like to receive it.
If everybody gets 5 minutes, then we ask follow-up questions. Should be fun.
You should.
Yeah.
And we don't want to turn anybody away, if
No.
somebody is taking the time to come, we
Exactly.
want them to have an opportunity to present. But I'm not concerned about.
Okay, if it's not
There's no specific time you have to be out of the room,
Yeah, no, I don't think we should be turning,
Um,
I think the time will be fun.
okay,
but even 5 minutes and then questions wouldn't be much more than 10 or 12 minutes
No, I think we'll be.
per topic, so. And the people that are gonna show up are gonna be fairly adept at doing this. I mean, they've made presentations multiple times, I'm sure. So. Anything else?
We got the calendar squared away too.
We sort of slid that, yeah.
Yeah.
November will be a
One of
little
the
odd.
holidays.
yeah, then it's gonna be.
We use one of our longer meetings to do the November.
We'll just have to have a special. I'll bring a cup out.
Special meeting, special meetings and. Okay, well. Thank you for those and Shelley sent me an email saying, thank you for asking how to do. So she's in. And, well, thank you all for doing that. That would be helpful. So give us more of a refined look at what we have once you've done your work. And then we really have to get started on the application process. So we don't get that set out, we'll be, yes, probably.
Do they still have the original stocks for the town? And I got nice set here.
We can make some.
All right, are we adjourned?
I think, yes.
Okay.
It is 6:50, we will adjourn.